Thanks for tuning in. This is week 3 of book summaries with Justine Mader. My goal is to read 52 books this year, so 1 book a week, and we are on our 3rd week. And this summary is on The Richest Man in Babylon, and it's done by George S. Clason, and I always want to say a different last name with George, but that's just personal tongue tie. So yes, the author of this book is George Clason, and the reason that I read this book is because I do believe that there's a lot of just, I guess it is what it is, mentality going on in our world today. If it's God's will, it'll happen. If it's not, and I've got there's such a personal war going on in myself. I do believe in God's will, and I believe it comes to fruition. But I also believe that God gives us the opportunities to help ourselves. And so he had a lot of great principles in this book, and these are the ones that stood out to me. So again, this is purely my summary of the book. This is purely for just some bullet points to give you my side of things and maybe educate you on some great titles in case you're looking for some good book recommendations for yourself in your life and business. But I do encourage you to read the book, and I do encourage you to check out my blog if you want to see it in written form. That's at justinemader.com. But without further ado, I'm going to go into my notes here. So my first note was start thy purse to fattening. And the way that the book emphasizes the importance of saving a portion of one's income is like the number one point that stood out to me. And people talk about doing this all the time, but I think so many people don't have like numbers or averages. And in this book, the number one thing he suggests was starting with at least 10%. 10%. Right? So if you make $100,000 a year, save $10,000. Oh my gosh, there's no way I could do that. Well, throughout the book, it talks about different ways you can do that. And again, if you say you can't, you've already lost the battle because you're already putting that kind of a mindset in place. So anyways, I'm going to continue reading my notes and we'll stop the tangents. This principle of saving at least 10% encourages everyone to develop the habit of regularly saving, right? So it doesn't have to be a lump sum at the end of the year. It needs to be something that's done consistently so we create habits. Remember, if you were with us on week 1, we talked about Atomic Habits by James Clear, and little things over time add up. Little, disciplines, little focuses, those can become really great habits to support your lifelong goals, right? Okay, number 2, control of thy expenditures. This principle encourages readers to live below their means, to avoid unnecessary debt. And as a reader, for me, it's one of those things, and as a mother too, I find myself, looking at stuff with such a practical mindset of like, do we need this? How are we going to use this? Is this good for the kids? Is this good for me? Is this for business? Right? And really being a good steward of what I have so that I'm not just out of control with my expenses, right? And so it's truly necessary to only spend on money that are, it's truly necessary to spend money on the things that really matter and you find to be necessities. And everyone's going to have a different definition of what a necessity is, but for you to determine what that is so that you can keep yourself on track, stay disciplined, and start creating that great habit, right? Next, I like this one. Make thy gold multiply. Like for me, that was so powerful because there's so many ways that people again talk about have your money work for you. And this is not the only financial book that we'll be reading this year, but it just reinstating that it has to work for you. And so this encourages, all of us to invest our money wisely. A lot of people are talking real estate. A lot of people are talking with the stock market changes and the crash coming up, to be aware of where you're putting your money. I 100% agree with that. But again, this is encouraging you, if you haven't ever invested your money, to be open to that principle as something that you should be looking into and leveling up yourself as an individual, but also as a business owner, right? Next, guard thy treasures from loss. How are you protecting yourself? How are you protecting your assets, your energy, your financial wellness? Are you actually being a good steward of protecting yourself as well? Do you have copyrights? Do you have life insurance? Do you have and I could go so far. I feel like this just started so many questions in myself, things that I need to do for me and my family. But also, I really want to bring this to the table. What are you doing for yourself to protect everything that you've invested so far, so it doesn't go to waste? Right? So it continues in your legacy. It blesses your family for generations to come. Like, How do you do that? And it suggests, especially for people, not to put everything in one basket. And I think it's so easy to be like, I found something that works, I'm just going to do this. No, we need to diversify. And, I think it's even in the Bible, different book, obviously. I think it's like 7 or 8 different forms of income that these different streams should be established for your assets and building that treasure that you'll have, right? So it's one of those things that you're going to want to focus on diversifying and protecting those assets, right? So those were the 2 big real things that stood out to me in that point. Point number 5, I think we're on number 5 now. Make thy dwelling a profitable investment. This encourages people to really focus on how you can have owning a home become something that actually supports your lifelong endeavors. And so for us, having a homestead, creating kind of a sustainable lifestyle, I do a big garden, we're looking to have some animals, like that's going to be something that supports us long term with the land. But that may not be the case for everyone. So is yours owning a duplex so you have the rent or pay your mortgage? Is that you owning a quadplex so you not only have your mortgage paid for, but you're also increasing revenue so you can put it into another home? Like, what does that look like? And this isn't our first property, but again, we've got other investments going on, just to be transparent. But it's one of those things that when we looked at it, it was looking towards the sustainable lifestyle that we're trying to create for our family. And so again, this works for me. What works for you, right? What is that going to look like? How are you going to make your dwelling, your home, a profitable investment? How can you do that in today's age? There's lots of different ideas: solar, animals, gardens. Like, there's so many different ways to do that. But again, what's going to be the way that works for you? I don't know. I can't wait to hear about it though. And the other point I wanted to make on that too was, when owning a home, they do talk a little bit about gaining like equity and potentially like a return, and using that through appreciation and rental income. So like there's a lot of different points that, and I'm sorry, my brain is just going a million miles an hour on the possibilities. So disregard that if that wasn't pertinent to what your questions were. All right. My last one was number 6, ensure a future income. This encourages people to plan smart, plan for retirement, plan to, ensure that there's a steady stream of income coming in regardless of what you're doing, where you're going, where you find yourself, and make it residual, make it something that happens whether you're there or not. And so it's one of those things that for so many people back in the day, right, when we think about when this book was written, there weren't the online possibilities. So I would love for this moment to be an encouragement to you, especially now with technology at its height and the opportunities that are here. Look at how you can create passive forms of income that will support you and your family in the long run, right? So you can spend more time and have that time freedom with your family. So you can take those family vacations or take care of your elderly parents. Whatever that looks like for you, that just really spoke to me because I'm in a season of taking care of some family loved ones. And I also have young children, and working from home, working remotely has got to be the only thing that's like actually made this possible. So, and I do have a very supportive husband that is working his butt off to help sustain and improve our financial future and help us really create a legacy. So definitely not saying that his isn't warranted either, but there's so much that I need to do, so much I need to take responsibility for. And that's the goal of my self-development. That's the goal of reading these books. And those were the 6 points that really stood out to me in this book. And I hope that it was a short summary, but something that could encourage you to figure out what is going to work for you. How are you going to start fattening your purse, saving a little bit every month? How are you going to control what you're spending? Are you guarding your treasures, your time, your energy, and your assets? Are you making where you are, your home, a profitable investment starting here, right? Start with what you have and see what you can do that way. And then lastly, ensure your future. What is it going to look like? How can you set yourself up for success? So again, Justine Mader here. Thanks so much for joining us, and I hope this was helpful. Take care, and we'll see you at the next week.